Hello and welcome to the Shoals Triple Threat podcast presented by Platinum Tier Events and Miami Ice. I'm your host, Scott Whittle, along with my co-host, David Hill and Blake Prestige. We also have our stats guru, Zach Pounders, who will give his Shoals sports report. And we're real happy to have Deshler head coach Brian Pounders as our special guest tonight, who will join us in studio. Guys, it's finally here, episode 1. I know we've talked about getting this podcast going for quite some time, and here we are. And I couldn't be happier to get this thing kicked off. It's basketball season, and several teams have started their seasons, and we'll talk about several of those teams. And we'll visit with Coach Pounders. We'll also chat with Brooks girls coach Will Copeland. We'll also talk to the N2 Hoops director, Luther Tigs, later in the show, and we will announce our Week 1 Miami Ice Players of the Week for both girls and boys. But before we get into that, guys, I got to ask you, what's it like being on this side of things now and not on the sidelines coaching?
Go ahead.
Different. We both, Lexington and Rogers were, Blake and I coached it, and our assistant principals at where they played this past week, and we sat together, and it's fun. You get to still do a lot of fun stuff like this where you're really involved with the game, keeping up with everybody. But when the game's over, you go home and you sleep a lot better than probably Brian does. Blake, what do you think?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was at that game Thursday night, and I actually told somebody at the game, I said, listen, I'm enjoying this game. I'm into it, but it's good to know that when I get home, I'm not going to think about it.
But
so it's been
are you
nice.
guys able to enjoy it? I mean, when you're watching, are you fully able to enjoy it, or are you having to deal with people in the stands asking you questions or questioning what's going on? And is it really enjoyable for you?
I think it all depends on who you surround yourself with at the game. I try to stay, sort of isolated, away from everybody, so I can, sit and enjoy it. But yeah, I mean, they're not going to come to me and ask me that stuff anyway. Hopefully, I'm going to support our coaches and just enjoy the game.
Yeah, I get to enjoy it, and Hunter, who had coached with me, and I had coached, get to cheer him on and talk a lot about it, and it's still fun. But it's difficult when those are your guys that you've had since 7th grade, and you're watching them, and you want to see them do well, and but it's a good thing, and this makes it so much better, being able to still feel like you kind of get that hoops fix and being in the game still.
Well, that's great, and thank you guys both for deciding to do this this year. I think we'll have a lot of fun, and we'll provide some much-needed, attention to the game of basketball at the high school level for both boys and girls.
Yeah.
And before we get to Zach and let him go over some stats and games that he's covered and some upcoming games that are going to be happening next week, we'd like to announce our Week 1 Miami Ice Players of the Week for both boys and girls. For the boys, it is going to be Miles Warren, sophomore guard from Brooks High School, and we're going to get him on the phone right now to talk to him, and then we'll announce our girls Player of the Week, and we'll get her on the phone too as well. So right now we're going to call Miles Warren. I think they have practice tonight at 7:30. But we're going to get him on the phone real quick and just ask him about his recent performance against Lawrence County, where he put up 40 points and had 10 rebounds. I was at that game.
It's huge.
It was big time. Let's get Miles on the phone. Join us now is sophomore guard Miles Warren from Brooks High School. He's our Week 1 Miami Ice Player of the Week. Welcome to the show, Miles Warren. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. I know you got practice at 7:30, so we'll make this brief. But I'm here with Blake Prestige and David Hill, and they got a couple of questions for you about your award this week.
Miles, Blake Prestige here. You had 40 points in the game. That is very impressive. Did you realize you had 40 points in the game when the game was over? Or, what were your thoughts after the game?
No, I actually didn't know I had 40 points. I just kept trying to score every opportunity I got. And then after the game, everyone was coming up to me and telling me I had 40.
Right. Well, that's an impressive feat. And One more question I've got for you before I give it to Coach Hill here. You play basketball for Coach Rusty Merckx. He's got a big personality, we know. Talk about that if you want to for a second.
Yeah, he really loves the sport of basketball. Like, everything he does, or he wants it to be with basketball. He's a great coach. He pushes us really hard, and he wants us to be great.
That's great, Miles. Well, listen, we appreciate you being on. Here's Coach Hill.
Hey, Miles, Coach Hill, man, congratulations on winning this award and obviously scoring 40. Scott and Blake and I had been joking the last to score 40 was Canute Wood, and they were playing my team when I was coaching. It was early on in the year, a couple of years ago. They'd beat us by about 3 or 4 points, and that was a really impressive game by Canute. Who are some people that you kind of, and it could be Canute, it could be other guys that have played before, it could be collegiately, professionally. Who are some people that you've kind of aspired and kind of been inspired by to try to model your game after, and the work that you do to get to the level to be able to score 40 points?
Well, I grew up like watching Collar and Canute, and they were both really good, and they both scored the ball a lot. So when I was younger, I just really looked up to them.
Yeah.
Because they played really hard, and they just scored a lot, and they're very successful for Brooks.
Right. What about collegiately, professionally? Who do you got in mind there?
Well, I follow Kentucky, and that's just who I follow. And
I got you.
Hey, Miles, one more quick question for you, just for young kids out there who see what you did in y'all's game this past week that want to do that. Talk about the work that you've put in the offseason. Like, how many shots are you shooting per day, per week in the summer?
well, in the summer, we practice about every day, and every week Coach Merckx had us up here shooting a lot, and I just tried to shoot a couple hundred shots extra every day in my own time.
That's the key.
Well, Miles, listen, congratulations on being the Miami Ice Week 1 Player of the Week for the Shoals Triple Threat podcast. And thanks for joining us, and good luck for the rest of the season. I know you guys got a game, I think, against Shoals County this week. We wish you the best of luck, and thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That was sophomore guard Miles Warren from Brooks High School. He was our Week 1 Player of the Week, presented by Miami Ice. And, hey, 40 points and 10 rebounds. I mean,
yeah,
when you play a game,
big deal.
At Brooks, and Coach Merckx comes from that Mike Willis background.
Right.
They like to win games scoring 50 points.
Right.
So when you have a kid scoring 40 points individually, I mean, at halftime, it was 23 points for Miles Warren, and Lawrence County had 23 points. So he's kind of maybe, adjusting to the way the game's played and allowing his players to maybe play a little freer, and you're going to maybe see some more points scored. And I know it's more exciting when you come to games and you see scoring. I played for Wayne Bracey at Deshler, and when we were up 6-2, we might ice the ball, in the first quarter, which that brings up the shot clock, and we'll talk about that a lot this year on the show.
Miles is a freshman or sophomore?
He's a sophomore.
Sophomore, yeah.
Yeah, he's a sophomore. And,
big time.
He's probably right at 6 foot right now. If he grows to 6'3", and, his father's, about 6'4", I mean, he could be a prospect to really, really monitor at the collegiate level.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing I know about that kid in talking with Coach Merckx is that kid is a gym rat. So, when you've got a kid who puts the work in like that, it's hard not to let him go out and play. You know what I mean? So, Coach Merckx probably realizes, this kid's put in the work. He's put in the time. He wants to be a player. So you're going to let that kid go out and play. It's nice to have kids like that.
Yeah, those dudes are getting the green light.
Yeah.
If you're a coach and you're going in to do laundry, you're going in to drop something off at your office, or you take note who you run into. Those people that you run into, the green light's on when it's game time, and makes a huge difference. The people that shoot the most usually are the ones that score the most, and it's funny how that all works out.
And when you talk about the green light, I don't think a player has it more than our Week 1 Miami Ice Player of the Week for the girls' side, and that's Reys Davis, Auburn commit, plays for Jana Killen at Deshler.
Yeah.
She's always got the green light, I think.
Yeah, she's a hooper.
we're going to get her on the phone if we can and talk to her about her Week 1 performance and winning the Miami Ice Player of the Week for the girls' side. Okay, now joining us live is our girls' Miami Ice Player of the Week for Week 1, and that's Deshler guard, also a sophomore, Reys Davis. Welcome to the show, Reys.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Listen, I've got a couple of questions from our panel here that we're going to go ahead and let them ask you. But you will be recognized as our Week 1 Player of the Week for the Shoals Triple Threat podcast for the girls' side. And I'm going to ask you a question real quick. Is Zach Pounders?
Reys, this is Zach Pounders, Shoals Sports Report. You had 19 points in the second half and a big steal with 2 minutes to go in the game in regulation. How was that, having a big steal in a big moment and having 19 in the second half to come back in that game and have a chance to win at the end?
We were down, and I knew that we had to pick it up as a team, so we called a timeout. We knew that we had to pick it up, so it was just a mindset. I knew I was cold the first half, and if we had a chance, I knew that I had to get me and my team ready to get back in it.
Talk about that timeout. I was sitting behind y'all's bench. During that timeout, you were limping about 3 minutes ago in the game. I noticed that and noticed how you were limping and still playing through it like nothing was wrong. How was that playing through pain in the second game of the season rather than in February when it's 2016 Elite 8 time? And you don't have to play through the pain now, but you need to get to Wallace and Birmingham.
Yes, sir. So, it's a mindset kind of thing. You don't let it get to you. I just try not to think about it and push through.
Hey, Reys, Blake Prestige here. I know you remember me. I know you all too well. Many of battles with you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Over the last 2 seasons, though, you guys have lost 2 big pieces. Chloe Siegel 2 years ago, Reagan Reichard after last season. So you've played a lot of basketball. You've been a main piece of what you guys have done at Deshler for the past couple of seasons. But your role has sort of changed this year. I sort of view you as the unquestioned leader of your team with those 2 gone. Has anything changed for you in the locker room as far as from a leadership standpoint goes, or on the floor? Talk about that.
Oh, yes, sir. So our point guard, Reagan, she was our kind of leader last year, so I've had to take that role and being the point guard. And we have a very young team. We have no juniors. We're a sophomore and freshman and senior team. So my leadership has changed big time, but Coach Killen's always seen me as an older player.
Right.
Because I've been on varsity since 7th grade. So it has changed big because like I said, we're young. So.
Right. Well, I know you guys are young, but we know you're very talented, very well coached. So listen, best of luck to you guys this season, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hey, Reys, this is David Hill. I used to coach the Lexington boys and girls basketball team years ago as well. You talked about you got a younger team and the leadership part, and you had mentioned, the first half being cold and feeling like shots weren't going in. Do you feel kind of that added pressure? And then my second part to that is, as you kind of go through a half where you're feeling cold, what's your reaction? Are you confident you're going to be able to shake out of the rut? Or are you, now that you kind of moved more into even more of a leadership role, what's your thought process with that?
Well, the first half going cold, you can't let that phase you. I know that me and my team are a shooting team.
Mm-hmm.
We shot in the 60% against Belgrade, so I knew we'd start hitting eventually.
Yeah.
So I was trying to be positive and tell them to keep shooting, and eventually they'll fall. So.
Right. Are there any former players that have been on your team that you kind of look to, maybe not even model your game after so much, but just on the leadership aspect of it, of who you would like to be, someone that you had really enjoyed playing with? You mentioned you played since 7th grade. Were there some girls that really took you under their wing to that you would kind of like to return the favor in as well with some of your younger teammates?
Oh, yes, sir. One that pops right to my mind is Mert Werner.
Yeah.
My 7th grade year, she was a senior, and she never got negative down on us. She's always lifting us up, so she's definitely somebody I'd like to be.
Hey, last question on my end. I'm sitting here next to Coach Brian Pounders, your boys' basketball coach. Do you have any really good stories about him? Maybe getting a little animated or a little extra emotional, or maybe you just had him in class and driver's ed and it got wild, or.
Well, one that pops to my mind is when KJ Anderson hit a game winner buzzer beater, and he was jumping up and down, and
that sniper got him.
over his calf.
We might have to pull up the video on that and show it one day.
I think everybody's
I'm
seen
sure.
that.
I'm sure it was worth every
my favorite
every
one
moment of
is
pain,
the,
though.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! You know, it was great. It was great.
Hey, Reys, one more for you. Coach Hill was talking to you about, being cold in the half of a game. And I want to know where that was when you played Rogers all those years, because I never witnessed you cold in a game in all the games I coached against you. So how come you never pulled that out against us?
Well, as the Rogers, they're always been very competitive,
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Reys, listen, before we let you go, you've already committed to Auburn. What was it about Auburn and Coach Harris on the Plains that made you decide to commit just in your sophomore year?
So I've known Coach Harris since I was like 8 years old. She was assistant at Mississippi State, and I went to camp there for 4 years straight. So I've known her for a very long time. And then their assistant coach, Coach Katara, she was my first ever camp coach there. So it's a whole big circle. And Auburn, it's a beautiful campus. It's very family. I just knew right when I walked there.
Well, congratulations on that, and congratulations on being our Week 1 Player of the Week. We couldn't be prouder of you, and good luck helping Coach Killen reach 900 wins tomorrow this week. We'll be pulling for you, and good luck the rest of the season. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me.
That was sophomore guard Reys Davis for Deshler, and she was our Week 1 Player of the Week. Fantastic player. I mean, she can shoot it. She's got range, and like she said, she's been playing on varsity since 7th grade. I mean, and probably just because you can't play on varsity until you're in 7th grade, or she might have been playing sooner than that.
Here's the thing about Reys. She has that it factor. She's a competitor. I mean, you can see it oozing out of her on the floor. So I know she puts a lot of time in. I know she's a gym rat, but she's got that it factor. She's just a competitor. I mean, I've seen her take games over, and that's what makes her special.
And still 3 seasons left to play, including this year. So no telling what the ceiling is for Reys Davis. But next up, we're going to have, I guess we're going to call Will Copeland. He's the Brooks girls coach. He came over from Florence High School. He's in his first year, and we will talk to him in just a moment. Joining us now on Shoals Triple Threat podcast is Brooks Lady Lions basketball coach Will Copeland. Coach Copeland, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you all for having me.
And, Coach Copeland, is my daughter Rainey takes history with him, and she loves you, Coach, so thank you for that.
She's a good student. She's in a class of 31 in there, and she does a good job. She's very, very studious. I think she gets that probably from you.
I'm not sure about that, but at any rate, we'll leave that for another episode. But Coach, I'm joined by Coach Blake Prestage and Coach David Hill, and I think they're going to ask you a couple questions.
Hey,
I'll be honored.
Coach Blake Prestage here. How you doing?
I'm good. Mr. Blake, how are you?
I can't complain. Hey, so we know you're taking over a program that, we'll just call it is what it is. It's struggled the last few seasons. And stepping into something like that, you can't try to conquer the world in one season. It's not going to happen overnight. So what's one thing that you've really focused on that you would like to see your program accomplish this season? What's that one thing that you've really put above everything else?
I believe we've really put a focus on just the fundamentals, just the skill work, just the whole facet of just offense and defense and shooting, and just building that up as much as we can. And one of the things that you mentioned was about the lack of success, and I think one of the things you have to tackle when you do that, the mindset of the kids. So
Absolutely.
We have 5 freshmen on our team, and they're coming off a junior high team that didn't win a game last year. So when you make that jump to a varsity schedule playing Lauderdale County and Deshler, you have to work on their mindset and just the confidence and the believing and that what they're doing is going to pay off.
Right.
So one of the things we've focused on with those group is we've scheduled 6 JV games that they can play, because we only have total of 8 kids, total 9 through 12. So we're working with them playing JV games and then the varsity games that's already scheduled. But just the biggest thing is get them some confidence and just try to gain that every day through the work we do in practice and the JV games and the varsity games we play.
Right. Well, Coach, I think you hit the nail on the head there when you talked about confidence. That's the key, and there's no doubt in my mind you're the right man for the job. And I'm hearing a lot of great things coming out of Killen with the girls' basketball program. So best of luck to you this season. Okay.
Well, I appreciate it. I know you being an alum of Brooks have a vested interest in it. So.
Well, I don't know about that now, Coach. I don't know about a vested interest, but.
Well, I know you got a little line in you, so it's okay.
Yeah, let's don't advertise that, okay?
Hey, Coach, this is David Hill. Just wanted to kind of ask you, now that you're back into the county, how does it feel to kind of be, I know that you graduated in the county, you didn't graduate at Brooks, but how does it feel to be back home, per se? What are maybe some of the differences that you've seen, not only coaching but teaching and being back in the Lauderdale County school system?
So the teaching's been great. I'm teaching dual credit history through UNA and regular history classes. And Brooks is a little bit more laid back than Florence, where I came from, spent the last 5 years. I like it because it's a 4A school and everybody pulls for each other. In all the sports, and you want every sport to do well, and it's a smaller atmosphere, and it breeds everybody just working together, and that's been really good. And just being and seeing a lot of familiar faces, and the transition from being a Central Wildcat graduate to moving to Brooks has been a little different, but the people in Killen and at Brooks High School have been very welcoming to me and my family.
Do you got any maybe foundational pieces that you're talking about, having some younger girls, but maybe some kind of key cogs or leaders that you feel like can really push this thing on out the next few years, that you're really kind of looking at being the foundation for you?
Well, one thing is not only the girls that are here, like we have 5 freshmen, 6 total, that one's ineligible who moved, 2 sophomores and 1 senior. And that's been a good group, and they've done everything we've asked them to do. And at the same time, we are really trying to build up our TVBA program, which I know is the foundation of just having, not only knowing the rules and but the competition about it, and the more
and the speed
practice,
of it.
The practice time they get, and the coaches. And we've got 4 or 3 really good coaches that have really, who really just bought into helping the kids at that level. We got Marcus Corbin, who works with our 6th grade, and Dee Fowler works with 5th grade, and Stacy Hill, whose husband is Scott Hill, who graduated from Brooks. All of them have been, just working, and we've done camps in the mornings on Saturdays just to work with those, just to get them to like basketball, because sometimes when you're at that age, there's going to be a sport, softball, volleyball, basketball, cheerleading, that really grasps hold of you, and you're just trying to have them to, of course, like basketball, but just tell them as well, sell the message of, like, you can do more than one sport. And that's one of the things we're really trying to harp on, is just kids that are out there just playing and having the best that's on the floor.
Hey, well, thanks, man, for calling in. That's all I've got on my end. I'm going to send you back to Scott, but we appreciate you calling in, and excited to see what the Lady Lions do this season, and wish you all the best of luck.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. That was Brooks Lady Lions coach Will Copeland. We appreciate him joining us tonight. You know, guys, he won a state championship at Sylacauga coaching boys. I know you've coached boys and girls, Coach Hill. I mean, like, talk about some of the challenges or the differences in coaching girls and boys.
Well,
what's he facing like? What are the biggest differences he deals with?
Just like Coach Prestige was talking about, the confidence part of it. And then one of the things that's difficult with him entering in a rebuilding situation, even some of the girls that have had a lot of success, you're still coaching confidence a lot. So these girls are babies playing against some dogs, you know, that it's hard to the goal is you're setting a standard. The goal is you're pushing them, but you also you don't want to have to go in with gloves, but you got to be delicate. And there's a balance of setting that standard, and then there's a balance of we've got to make sure we keep them out here, we keep them motivated, we keep them wanting to work and believing that if they put in work, they can see the success. Maybe if they're not seeing it this season, being able to lock in and say, we're going to see the success down the road. And, man, it's the tough part of coaching.
Yeah, and keep your eye on Ariana Santiago. She's a sophomore guard.
Okay.
She's got the most experience coming back on his team. You heard him mention it. They got 5 freshmen, but she had the ball in her hand a lot playing last year on the varsity team. And, you know, I think she could be that piece that you were talking about.
They've played twice already, and she's already had 21-20 already in 2 games. So that's it out too. Being a first year at a new program, if you have a kid who can drop 20 in 2 games, I mean, it says a lot too.
It does, yeah.
I think once he gets the skill level where it needs to be, what he does is really effective in girls basketball. You know, he did it at Sylacauga, at Florence, he did the same thing. He likes to play a full court game, a fast game, man press a lot. And Brooks girls, the athletes are there for them to run that system. They just got to work on the skill level. And I think he realizes that. That's why he talked about fundamentals, you know, really honing in on the fundamentals. And I think once the skill level gets there, I mean, I think Brooks is a school in girls basketball that could be, you know, I think they could win state championships there. I really do. And I think he's going to put the work in to get them to that level.
Well, we appreciate him being on there. And coming up next, we're going to have Zach Pounders give our Shoals Sports Report. And we'll also talk to Into Hoops director Luther Tiggs. Okay, now we have our stats guru, Zach Pounders, who's going to give his Shoals Sports Report. Zach.
Hey, I'm Zach Pounders. I run a Shoals Sports Report on Facebook and Twitter. You may have seen me before. If you hadn't, go follow Facebook and Twitter both, Shoals Sports Report. Start with Carpenter County so far. Carpenter County schools off to a pretty good start in basketball. Deshler boys right now are 2-1, so are the girls. Deshler boys have beaten Tisch County so far and Belgrade. Deshler girls are actually on a milestone win hunt tomorrow. Deshler girls are 2-1. Tomorrow at Carpenter County, 4:30, 2 games. Deshler girls, if they win, Coach Killing gets her 900th career win. You can count on one hand how many coaches in the state have 900 wins. It's not a whole lot. And she is very close to the state record all the time for boys and girls coaches for most wins in state history. Moving on to the county schools in Carpenter County. Carpenter Heights is off to a 5-1 start for the boys, and their girls are off to a 6-3 start. Pretty good start for Carpenter County. For Carpenter Heights, Carpenter County, however, is off to a good start as well. Carpenter County is off to a 3-1 start. Black Taylor for Carpenter County boys, really good player, can score basically any night he wants to. Moving on to Lauderdale County now. A few teams unbeaten already. Mars Hill, Brooks, undefeated. Mars Hill girls are undefeated. Lauderdale County girls are undefeated. Rogers girls are 2-1. Lost to Lexington the other night. Now, in the West Lauderdale County, you've got Wilson and Central off to good starts. Central only played 1 game so far because of football, but Wilson's played 6 or 7 games off to a good start there over there in Zip City. Waterloo girls are off to a good start at 5-1 so far. I think they had the most games of anybody in the county. And Florence girls, whose coach is Blair Woods Bowens. She played at Deshler for Coach Keelan back 20 years ago. She has Florence off to a 2-2 start. 2 good wins this week against Lawrence County, Alabama, and Boonville, Mississippi. Boonville's a traditional powerhouse in Mississippi. I think they're about a 3 or 4-8, but traditional powerhouse. Always going to Elite 8, Final Fours, and they was able to beat Boonville by 3. And closing with Florence Boys. Florence Boys is off to a fast start. They had Jalen Chandler move in from Covenant Christian last year. 3-1 start. Their loss was Boonville by 9, but off to a 3-1 start, they beat Tupelo, Mississippi, who is a 7-8, one of the largest schools in Mississippi. Beat Lawrence County, Alabama so far. And Albertville also, who is a 7-8 in Alabama, and they're playing the N2 hoops tournament at Sparkman High School, which we'll talk about here in a second. And that's all I have this week. Go follow us at Shoals Sports Report. We have all scores, standings, stats, whatever you can think of. We have it probably. Shoals Sports Report will have schedules for all week. Go follow us, and back to Scott.
You know, you mentioned Florence. I was able to go to one of their practices last week, and, second-year coach Dylan Burleson, who came from Haleville, they got high expectations for this team. They look to make some noise in 7A after a 3-year absence from the playoffs. You mentioned Jalen Chandler. He won a couple of state championships at Covenant Christian for the Eagles. Probably should have won a third in a row. They lost to Georgiana last year. But he's paired with a real talented guard, Bryant James, who can score from anywhere on the floor. And I really think, he averaged 16 points a game last year. I think he made 79 three-pointers, Dylan told us. And they're playing in the N2 Hoops event, as Zach mentioned.
They have a higher energy at Florence, too. To add to that about Jalen, I was at the Tupelo game 2 weeks ago now, and it was a fast start. Both teams run up into the court. All of a sudden, one Florence guys goes up for a dunk, and had he hit the dunk, the place would have erupted. Everybody's just like, and he missed the dunk, and it was just like, if that dunk would have hit, it would be Tupelo timeout, and it'd been just one of the most electric scenes.
Yeah.
Opening night.
So, they're playing in the N2 Hoops event against Lee Huntsville, and we're going to have Luther Tigs on the show momentarily, and we'll talk to him about that tournament. Sure. And then we'll bring in our special guest who's in studio tonight, Deshler head boys coach Brian Pounders. Joining us now live on the Shoals Triple Threat podcast is former University of North Alabama basketball standout and the director of the N2 Hoops tournament, Luther Tigs. Coach Tigs, thanks for joining us.
Good evening to you guys.
Listen, I know you got a busy tournament coming up. Coach Hill is here on the panel, and he wants to talk to you about that. Coach Hill.
Tigs, what's up, man?
Hey, Dave. Hey, listen, I can't believe they got you on the panel, man. They just lost 10
They're struggling, man. They're struggling.
They don't have that many left. They can't have that many left.
Well, how you doing, brother? Are you ready for this week? Are you excited? Who are some people?
It's absolutely exciting, man. I feel like I'm drinking water through a fire hose.
Right.
I mean, it's but, I'm looking forward to it, since I retired. And, this gives me my feel. It backfills me for, all those years I put into it. I get an opportunity to watch 22 games over 2.5 days. And so, if you're a basketball junkie, that's what you live for.
That's right. It's high level hoops for sure. I know that you don't get any weak teams in there. Who are some of the ones that you have kind of in your head maybe as a potential favorite or maybe just some dudes that, as you would say, they're salty, they're ready to go. You got to keep an eye on that can really go hoop.
Well, we've got, we have 16 teams, obviously. And, we try to fill, this tournament with, teams who have, high-level players. We have a good local base of kids. And we try to fill it with some out-of-town teams that, they're pretty salty, that has a good roster, and teams that are well coached, give us a little different flavor. Out-of-town teams right now, we've got Auburn High School out of Alabama. We've got Eufaula with Michael Smith over there. Mm-hmm. We've got Northridge High School is a first-time entry into our tournament. You've got Barry Sanderson Everybody knows the legendary Webb Sanderson. That's
Right.
one of his sons. We've got Southwind High School out of Memphis, Tennessee, with Paul Edwards. They've been out tournament before. We've got Sumter Central High School out of York, Alabama. Coach Jasmine Mitchell. They were a Final Four participant last year. So we've got a nice mixture of flavor. But, when you add in, the Austin High Schools, the Bob Jones, Florence High School, Hazel Green, Huntsville High, James Clemens, Madison Academy, Sparkman High School, and Westminster, you get a really good mix, of flavor and teams that are well coached, who play hard. They bring a very competitive team to the floor. So I'm expecting a really good competitive week of basketball. And I tell anybody, this, work with me for a number of years. It doesn't matter about rankings, doesn't matter about signees. On any given night, anybody can be beat.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody. So it's all about 32 minutes.
Right.
And if your will to win is better than the other team, then you got an opportunity. But I really think, Huntsville High School has 4 Division I signees on their roster. So you would assume that they would be the favorite.
Right.
But you also bring a Southwind High School out of Memphis, Tennessee, that a lot of people are predicting to be one of the best teams in the state of Tennessee. And so, if those 2 teams I really look at as the marquee teams. But, again, for 32 minutes, anything can happen.
And, those 2 teams you mentioned, both Huntsville and Southwind, they're on different sides of the bracket. So potentially a championship match with those 2 teams, Coach.
Right. And, also, the first round matchup against Auburn High School and Southwind, that could be a really nice matchup. Auburn High School was 26-6, regional runner-up. And they bring one of the dynamic players back in this tournament, Antoine Daniels, whose father played at Auburn University and played for Dallas Mavericks. And he's a 6'5" point guard. That's just a junior. He's very talented. So, again, I really think that's going to be an exciting matchup. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, Marquise Daniels, he mentioned, played for the Dallas Mavericks and also coaching for Auburn and Bruce Pearl, I actually helped him with his golf game one day. It wasn't very pretty, I should say. But at any rate, he could really shoot the basketball. And talk about someone who could shoot the basketball, not to, toot your own horn, Coach Tigs, but Coach Tigs was a 3-year starter at North Alabama.
Yeah.
He played at a time, not to show his age, when I was growing up going to North Alabama basketball games. I think he's the all-time leader in assists at North Alabama, and he has the highest free throw percentage of any player at North Alabama in upwards of 86%, I believe. But one day at a game, after the game, he gave me his sweatbands. I don't even think players wear sweatbands anymore, Coach, but he gave it to me, and to me it was like getting it from Michael Jordan. I'm just going to tell you.
Right.
I still got that thing. I don't think I washed it, but at any rate, I appreciate that, Coach. I do.
Absolutely, anytime. Hey, listen, guys, I'll tell you another kid that most people need to look out for. It's one of the marquee players in this tournament. You got a kid named Caden Ricks. He's a 6'7" junior over at Austin High School, and his mother played for University of Alabama. And I think he has a Big East offer on the table.
Wow.
And I think he was at Kennesaw State this week.
You talking about Caden Riker, not Ricks, right? Caden Riker, right?
No, this is Caden Ricks.
Okay.
The Riker kid, Caden Riker, is at Bob Jones.
That's right.
Who's committed to Murray. But you have a Caden Ricks kid, it's a 6'7" junior that's over at Austin High School. He has a Big East offer. He just has an offer from Kennesaw State, who just upset Rutgers.
Antoine Petway.
Last night.
Yeah, they beat him today by 2 at Kennesaw.
Right.
Big win.
Right. So he's a really good player, along with Harry Malone. That's a 6'1" senior guard. He is really nice. And then you look over in the Shoals area, Florence High School with Coach Burleson. He's got a really nice group, returning. And he's added some pieces. He's added the Jalen Blackwell kid. That's a 6'4" senior from Madison Academy. He's one of their best players. And obviously, he's got the Bryant James kid that's a 6'2" senior point guard that's a really nice player. And so they bring a nice mixture to the tournament. So, again, I mean, you know, you look at South Wayne, they got Christopher Carroll's a 6'5" senior guard that's all over the radar. It's got a lot of Division I offers. And I think the best underclassman in the tournament is a kid named Ty Pace. He's a 5'7" freshman that starts with Sparkman High School. And his father played for me, Danny Pace, at Sparkman High School. He's a really fine basketball player. And then if you look at Sumter Central, they've already got a kid, Emmanuel Clarkson, who's a 6'6" guard who's committed to Troy University. So there's talent all over the field in this tournament. And so, you know, we're expecting a great turnout. And if you're a basketball junkie and you're just looking for a great week of hoops, there's no better place to be right now than the Into Hoops Invitational starting tomorrow at Sparkman High School.
You can catch all those games starting tomorrow, as Coach Tigs said, starting at 9 o'clock with the Hazel Green Westminster matchup, and it'll be capped off with the nightcap at 7:30 with Huntsville and East Limestone. Coach, where can our viewers and listeners follow the Into Hoops on social media?
Yeah, that is correct. We're on our Twitter account at Into Hoops IMV, and you can also follow me on Facebook at Luther Tigs, Luther Harold Tigs on Facebook, and you know, it has all the updates. You'll be able to, you know, see the pin bracket to the tournament and be able to see the updates and follow along if you're not able to make it to the game. But you know, like I said, I'm looking for a great week of basketball. This is the best time of the year for me, and I really appreciate you guys giving me an opportunity to speak on the tournament.
We thank you, actually, Coach, and good luck this week. We'll be watching, and we appreciate you joining the show. That was Coach Luther Tigs joining the Shoals Triple Threat podcast. He's the director of the Into Hoops Invitational that will begin tomorrow at Sparkman High School.
Appreciate you, Coach. Best friend is Derek Johnson. He either played or coached him. I can't remember. But it was a real cool story. He talked about, I think he went up against Marquise Teague that played at Kentucky, and Teague thought he was like the water boy. And Majette just ate his lunch in the pre-draft workout at the combine, and a few stories came out afterwards. You know, Teague was a first-round pick, I think, maybe even a lottery pick, and could really go. But just like you're talking about, man, his game didn't translate to what he looked like.
No, even as a high school player, you know, if you saw him walking down the hall, you'd be like, well, yeah, that guy's probably, you know, Scholars Bowl, yes, you know, something. I mean, he
is he on staff at Sanford?
Look like
he is. Danny Young's coaching with Bucky at Sanford.
Okay.
You know, they recently played UNA.
Yes.
It was a great game. I was there. I think UNA was down 20 points at halftime, and they forced overtime, lost 97-96. I mean, missed a lot of free throws, but really a good game, good atmosphere. You know, and for our listeners and viewers, I mean, go to North Alabama basketball games. I mean, we want to talk about high school basketball. We want you to go to games, and we're going to go to games because we love the sport. But they have a great product. Coach Poole does a great job. You know, the women's coach is a new coach, and they got a couple of Deshler kids on the team.
Yeah.
And it's just a fun atmosphere, and I encourage, you know, people to go watch that. But right now, it's a real treat for me to have the boys basketball coach at Deshler. I'm a Deshler graduate. Played basketball at Deshler, and I'm excited to have Coach Pounders here. He's coming off of a Final Four season where he led the Tigers to the state semifinals. He's been to the Elite Eight, I think, at least 2 of the last 3 years prior to that, and he's won 20-plus games in 3 out of the last 4 years, probably close to 275 wins or so, I'd say. So he's going to be hitting that 300 mark soon, and we're really excited to have you here, Coach. We appreciate you joining us.
Well, I appreciate you guys and doing this, and you know, all that you guys do for promoting high school basketball in this area. I think there's a lot of good players and a lot of good coaches, and you know, a lot of strong fan bases that support their team. So this is great product that you guys are doing. Really, really appreciate it.
You know, and this is probably the calmest that you'll see Coach Founders is here in the studio doing this podcast with us. But Coach, you know, I mentioned your Final Four.
Yep.
Would you say that was your best team you coached? This is his 13th season, or did you just get it going at the right time? Talk about that.
Well, part of it's just like what you said. We were 12-10 at one point, early January, 12-10, and then we proceeded to finish out 10-2 in the last 12. Yeah, it's just we got hot, started playing a little bit better together. Took a while to gel. But no, as far as talent, I told them last year, this is they were not the most talented team we've had in the last 12, 13 years. We've had probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 teams with more talent, but they competed. They were busted their tails and got after it. And, we had a really good point guard and just like football, if you got a really good quarterback, you got a really good point guard, you always got a chance. And he sort of led us along with 2 or 3 other key guys. So
and also I'll say this. I'm sorry to cut you off, but from an outsider's perspective, I know it was a team effort, the run you guys had last year. But was there a player in Northwest Alabama better than Garrett Reed in late January and February last season? Because he really showed out for you guys.
Yeah, he really. When he came to Deshler, we didn't know how good he was going to be. I mean, when he transferred in, he played pickup 1 or 2 days with us, and then it was about football season. So when we got him last November, when football was over with, first 2 or 3 games, I don't even think we started him the first game. We didn't even know. Right. And then he started maybe the second or third game or whatever. But he really started hitting his mark early, mid-January, I would say. I mean, that's why we went 10-2 in our last 12 games, because he was very hard to guard, along with our point guard. We had Khalil Bland, and then you had, Aiden Woody, who they sort of looked like the 1980s mullet they had both going on at the time. So, so they sort of fed off each other. And, now he was hot. And,
I knew what kind of player you was getting. We were doing our little basketball camp for kids, and Rusty brought his little boy.
Yeah.
And Rusty looked like his dog had got ran over. And this was in the summer, and I'm like, dude, are you good? Like, what's the matter? And he's like, I just lost my best player, and or one of my best players. And it's like, who? And then we played the Reed kid in a JV county championship, and he was he's a big time player. And just kind of going back to what we've talked about, like with Reys and these others, just seems like uber competitor.
Yeah, and I think it shows how he impacts the football team. Yeah, so positive. And he's a baseball. He's going to play college baseball. And we all know that. He's just a competitor. He don't want to lose. He's going to do whatever it takes to help us win.
To me, it's even more important when that's maybe not his main sport.
Yeah.
And that when these other guys are looking like, this dude's going to play college baseball, like this ain't him his breadwinner.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's
out here busting his tail, and he's getting in the gym more and shooting. And you're right. I mean, he's going to play college baseball.
That's contagious.
Exactly. And it sets a very, very good example to the guys.
So you mentioned Khalil Bland. He's obviously graduating, gone. Who's somebody that we can look at to sort of step into that role?
Well,
what he did?
We've got Aiden Woody, and we can play him at the 1, but we really like him more at the 2.
Right.
And Braylon Warren is our starting point guard right now. He played really, really well the other night at Russellville. Had about 15 points, all in the second half. Hit some big shots. And that's what we expect him to have.
Right.
Every night. Maybe not 15, but 8, 10, 12 points. And I think first 2 games he had 2 and 5 or what. But he had a really good summer for us. He had a really good fall. He was with us all fall. He doesn't play football. He's an athletic kid that can do a lot of stuff. He's different from Khalil, but he's got a chance. He's only a junior too, so hopefully he keeps working at it. He's got a chance to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Coach, a guy that might not show up as much in the stats night in and night out, and right now you don't have him, but he's really kind of a glue guy. What's the loss of Jay Murner right now? for you guys?
Yeah, that's a tough one. He had 10 and 10 as a freshman last year, a 14-year-old freshman at the time of the game, I think. Maybe just turned 15 last year in the Final Four game. And now he's grown. He's gotten thicker and taller. And, of course, he broke his leg. His voice and Coach Phillips and I've talked about that. We miss his voice on the court just as much as we do his body and his rebounding ability, because he's such a vocal player. And as we all probably can tell, kids, I don't know, maybe more boys than his girls, and it may be the same thing. Girls, they just don't talk enough. They don't talk, communicate. They may point, but they just don't. And then we send them these clips of LeBron or Mark Sears talking to Alabama in these practices. Like, do you listen to them? I mean, listen how much talking is going on at these practices. LeBron's maybe the best player ever, and he's over here talk. Right. But that's what we're missing with Jay. Because Garrett does a really, really good job with that. And we've got one or two other guys that are getting better at it. But that's what I tell people, we miss his voice right now. And then, he sits on the bench and he's at every game and he's at basically almost every practice unless he's at rehab. We're hoping that somehow, some way he can come back maybe middle of January. It's not completely ruled out, but, a lot of that depends on his rehab and how his body responds.
You mentioned LeBron might be the best ever.
Oh, well, I'm a Jordan fan.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
I have to appease these kids. That
right, I
LeBron
understand.
is. No, Jordan's best.
Okay.
Kobe's number 2 and LeBron 3.
Look,
I know. All right. Gold and purple over there. David thinks that. But no, like I said, hopefully we can get him back. But he's a
What do you think
kid.
area-wise? You get another real easy area.
Yeah, it's very easy. Yes, very easy. I mean, Cupcake City. Yeah, obviously Brooks. Talked with the Warren kids. I mean, that's just. I saw him play this fall in the fall league game. Went over and watched, and I was like, my goodness, I think he went like 10 for 10 from the field.
Right.
I mean, you could tell the kid's been in the gym. Mm-hmm. In Central. He's got a lot of pieces back. Josh does a great job. And then Wilson's
Warriors
probably the
are
best.
trending up.
Yeah, I mean, they're trending up. Got the Glaze kid. He does a really good. Corey does a really good job over there. And then Hatton's sort of unknown. We don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
They're with us for years.
Yeah, got some athletes.
They do.
Beat us in football, so we know that can do some stuff. So it's going to be a dog eat dog area, and it's going to be a battle every night. For sure. So
I got to see you guys play often with us being in the same area. I know I was on the girls' side, but kept up with you guys, and for years, how many years in a row regional tournament? Have you guys been to the regional tournament? A lot of years you guys have been in the regional tournament, and just never could kick the door in and get to the Final Four. Last year, you guys do it. In the off season, this summer, off season workouts, has that been mentioned a lot as far as, hey, we got there last season, now it's time to go ahead and bring home that blue map? Or has it just been?
You try to keep it balanced. At least that's our approach. Like, we talked about it. But we also understand our areas. We just said it's pretty dang good.
Yeah, you can't look ahead.
And if you have one bad night in the area tournament, you can go home. But yeah, we I think some people last year when we got down to the Final Four, they thought we were going to get blown out. Like, we should have been there. 4A Northwest this year was weak. Blah blah blah. And we get in there and we're down 1 with the ball with 36 seconds left. Had a chance.
And then had a chance to even win the next game.
Yeah. So and it just shows you just you just never know. And like what Coach Tigs was saying, anybody can be anybody on any given night in basketball. Right. And I don't, I'm not a football coach, but I don't know that you could say that about every high school football game because it takes so many kids. In basketball, man, you just need 5, 6.
Right.
And, and you're hitting shots and they're not. And you can shock the world.
And I will say this, I think the landscape, and we're talking 4A right now, I think the landscape statewide really sets up for a local team to finally bring one home. I really do. Because I know 2 years ago, I went down there and watched the 4A final, Westminster Christian against Jacksonville's guys.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, I'm just being honest on here. I know everybody's seeing this, but it's going to take a really special Shoals area team to beat either one of those two teams. All right. But you look at last year, I mean, we're competitive with those teams.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that this year. I think looking across the state, the landscape of 4A, I think our teams are very competitive and looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun year and a fun area tournament and a fun area games. And then, like you said, just like our crossover with Good Hope and, West Morgan and, Danville and those guys, West Morgan's got some athletes. They've got a lot of positive stuff
Have they
going
played
on
yet?
over there. No, they're still in football. And I don't think he's starting until
Danville's got
Sam Wallace over
Sam
there now.
Wallace, yeah.
Sam does a good job, and
He does.
And Good Hope, he's got some pieces back what he had last year. So,
right.
but our area is just in my
Any other local teams popped up in your head
13 years and 4
outside of your maybe area teams, but not necessarily your area that you play with?
Well,
I'm talking about just
4A.
well outside of 4A.
Well, I mean, we played Russellville today, and Coach Odom does a great job down there. But I'm telling you that EJ King kid
can go.
He may be the best player in the area. I mean,
Yeah.
He had 35, 37 against us, and I thought we defended him fairly decent as well. But
Right.
he can go, and he's put on some muscle, so he's a little bit harder to guard.
Yeah.
Jumps out of the gym.
Zach, I think you got a question for Coach Pounders.
Yes, Coach Pounders. Last year, I was at that Brooks Deshler area championship game. I called the game of the year for basketball last year. Double overtime thriller. I think y'all led most of the game. Brooks comes back at the end, takes the lead, goes overtime, double overtime back and forth. Miles Warren had a big shot here and there. Brooks wound up losing in the round 32. Y'all won the round 32 and went to the Final Four. How did that game affect y'all's season at that point? Did y'all need that loss, or did y'all feel y'all could have won that game and still went to the Final Four?
Well, I mean, that's a tough question. I think we'd won, 7 or 8 in a row at that point, and sometimes you just need a loss to just get it out of your system. And we did not want to lose that game, especially being at home, especially the way we lost it. But I think Coach Merckx would agree too. We felt like our crossover, anybody could beat anybody. Some years, hey, we've got to win our area tournament because we don't. We're going to have to go play so and so at their place and this
On the road,
on the road,
Yeah.
and it's almost going to be impossible. It's going to be like, facing Goliath. So when that happened, it was on a Wednesday, and we played it early. We didn't play Hamilton until that Saturday, so we had two full days, Thursday and Friday, to practice, to talk about them. We played them earlier in the year, and they beat us at Deshler by 15 or so, maybe 20. So we knew that they could beat us, but it was that was a tough game because you want to win the area and stuff, but Brooks has a great team, had a great team last year, and Rusty does a heck of a job with them. So it was tough, but you'd rather lose that one than lose the semifinals of the area tournament when you're done. And that's the thing about the area championship game. Hey. We get another one. Win or lose, it does take some pressure off you as a coach. I think it takes some pressure off the kids as well. Hey, win or lose, we're playing Saturday night. So that was our mindset.
Listen, if you want to get in Coach Merckx's head before the Brooks game, just look at him, be dead serious. Say, Prestige said he owns you on the golf course, and he was serious, and that'll throw him off. I promise you.
I may have to throw that out there come December, whenever we play him, January, December, whenever we play him.
That'll be a fun matchup.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to watching that one.
Yeah, I was at that game too. It was a fantastic game. I think Noah Gregg had a chance there at the rim. Maybe the game could have gone either way there, but Coach Pounders is 90-41 over his last 4 seasons with 2 Elite 8 appearances and of course the aforementioned Final Four appearance. So sometimes at Deshler, Coach Killen gets the court's named after, and they expect state championships, but what a phenomenal job you've done.
Absolutely.
At
Appreciate it.
Deshler.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. It's a great place. It's graduating from there, and Coach Killen's great to work with. When I took the job, you just never know. I didn't really know her. How is this going to be to work? We're going to have to practice every day after them. How is she going? Because at that time, I think she had 4 or 5 state championships, and now she's great to work with. It's great. It's a good place.
And before we let you go, of course, I got a crazy question. Who, in your time coaching at Deshler, do you remember being the toughest, maybe not just team, but individual matchup of a player that you had?
That's Mark Sears. That's an easy question. When he was in high school, we knew he was going to be good. I didn't know he'd play at Alabama, all SEC, all American good, but he was hard to guard, and we tried to go under ball screens. Well, he'd stop and shoot a 3. We tried to go over the top. Well, he'd beat you to the rim, and just crafty. His hands, was strong. I know he's strong now. He was strong, in high school, and then being left-handed, I think, gave him a little bit of advantage. Even when we played McCarthy, Westminster, 2 years ago in the Elite 8 game, we lost by 4. In that game, the Caden Riker kid was better for them. That hurt us more than McCarty did. But Mark, we played against Mark, 5 times, 7 times. So he's the person that comes to mind. I mean, such a high basketball IQ as well. I mean, there's some stuff you can't teach. He just instinctively knows. And I think that's obviously why he's had the success he's had at Alabama.
And then they had McIntosh to go with
Yes,
it.
Yeah, Mikey McIntosh, Terrell McDonald, who's a senior at UAB playing football. I mean, they had a lot of talent around him.
JP and McIntosh are playing together at West Alabama now.
Okay.
I mean, they were good. I mean, we had some battles, and Mark just was a special kid for sure.
Well, he is special, and you guys have something in common. He led his team to the Final Four, and you did that too.
Yeah.
So hopefully, as Coach Press has mentioned, we can get you over the hump this year. I mean, Elite 8, then Final Four. It's kind of trending in that direction.
Well, I don't. Like I said, we just hope we can win some area games right now, and we'll see. We'll see. It's gonna be tough. So,
How do you feel about your matchup tomorrow with Colbert County?
oh man, they're tough. Coach Robertson over there is doing a great job. I mean, they're athletic.
Yeah.
They're fast.
They're trending upward too. It seems
Yeah,
like.
I mean, he's doing a good job, and that the Taylor kid can really play, and then the Castle kid can shoot a 3 probably as good as anyone around the Shoals.
Right.
I told our guys the best Colbert County team I've seen in probably 4 or 5 years. I would guess. So it's gonna be a dogfight. For sure at their place. So hopefully we can.
It's a tough place to play.
Yeah, it is. It is
I don't know.
different. I don't know. It's the lighting.
Yeah, the lighting.
It's not
the more
not
halogen lights.
Yeah, it's not extremely bright. And then we haven't played over there in probably 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years.
I always think, buddy of mine that was helping me coach, the way those lights are is the switch is like right up against the wall, right where you'll dress at.
Yeah.
And Troy.
He turned
He's
it off or something.
He leaned up against it.
Here they
Goes
go.
completely. Of course, we're loving it. We're like, yeah. Everybody in the gym's looking at him, and but yeah, it's a different little place.
Yeah. It'll be a tough game. Like
good luck to y'all.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Coach, thanks again for joining us. I want to thank Zach Pounders for the Shoals Sports Report and our sponsors, both Platinum Tier Events and Miami Ice. Episode 1 in the books. A lot of fun, guys. A lot of fun.
Hey, we want to thank you, man. You did a lot of work getting this all together. It's top notch.
Well, like I said, I want to thank you guys because I think high school basketball in the Shoals is really, really good right now, boys and girls.
Yes,
you got a lot of people that are working a lot and good coaches, a lot of good players. And a lot of times they get unrecognized,
right?
Because just the nature of the state that we live in.
Right.
So I just appreciate you guys doing this, and I think this is terrific. So I look forward to following it and listening to you guys.
That's going to wrap it up for week 1 of the Shoals Triple Threat podcast presented by Platinum Tier Events and Miami Ice. I'm your host, Scott Whittle, and we are excited to be back for week 2 next week, where we'll recap some of the games we talked about and announce our players of the week for the boys and girls. Thanks a lot.